On the 21st of March 2022, at exactly 21 minutes past 9 a.m., in a tweet, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni announced the death of the Speaker of the Ugandan Parliament, Jacob Oulanyah. 3 days before his 57th birthday, Oulanyah passed away in Seattle, Washington, undergoing treatment. As a result of his death, Uganda faced a series of unprecedented events, ranging from the cost of his treatment to the cause of his death. Clearly, the passing of the speaker left a mark on Uganda and got many people talking, from protests, healthcare, and tribalism. Regardless of all this talk, will things change in Uganda? Will Uganda learn from Oulanyah's death? First, let us look at the office of the speaker itself. As the legislature, it is the second arm of the government. Now, according to the Ugandan Constitution, Article 1095, it says, where the president or the vice president are both unable to perform the functions of the office of the president, the speaker shall perform those functions until the president or the vice president is able to perform those functions, or until a new president assumes office. Meaning that if something happened to the president and the vice president, Oulanyah would be the one to take over. This puts him third in line of the presidency in the country. On the 24th of May 2021, Jacob was voted into this office, beating Rebecca Kadaga, whom he had deputized for 10 years. The race was so heated since both were from the same ruling NRM party. As deputy speaker, he visited Bobi Wine while in detention after being tortured and beaten by Museveni's Special Forces Command Unit, something he went through as a youth, and we shall come back to that later. Now, with this win, he had reached the pinnacle of his career as a politician because he was third in line for the presidency. Who knew where he would go from here? Maybe vice president, or even the highest office in the land, the presidency. Now, speaking about Jacob Oulanyah, most parliamentarians said that he was very strict on issues brought on the floor of the parliament and emphasized every parliamentarian to do research before they could speak. As speaker, Oulanyah's triumph was short-lived since he was battling cancer, with the majority of the country unaware of this. However, people very close to him knew, as well as some MPs. The day after Oulanyah's election as speaker, he traveled to the United Kingdom for over a month to seek treatment, although publicly it was reported that he had traveled to visit one of his children. This is the point when this lady stepped in. This is Anita Among, Oulanyah's deputy, who took over his duties while he was away. On the 24th of December 2021, Jacob Oulanyah chaired his last session as speaker, passing the NSSF Amendment Bill of 2021, which provided midterm access to workers, forwarding it to the president for approval.
Congratulations, Honorable Minister. Congratulations, Chair. And thank you, members. Congratulations. Today I will breathe, because I've been receiving phone calls and messages from the workers of this country. Parliament has delivered on what it should do to grant the workers of this country, those who qualify, midterm access.
That would be his last day to enter the parliament as speaker. From that point on, the deputy speaker would completely take over the duties. On the 4th of February 2022, at exactly 41 minutes past 7 p.m., a Twitter account by the names of Woody's Aero Images posted this tweet. Now, this alert triggered a lot of worldwide speculation on why the Uganda Airlines plane Airbus A330-800neo was in Seattle. According to OneMile.com, on February 3rd, 2022, Uganda Airlines flew from Entebbe to Keflavik in Iceland in a flight time of 10 hours and 42 minutes. Then, on Friday, the same airplane flew from Keflavik to Seattle in a flight time of 7 hours and 28 minutes on the 4th of February 2022. The movement of the plane was quite suspicious, but still, no one knew why it was making these movements. But what was certain was that the aircraft was chartered. Some even thought that it was there to pick vaccines, given how huge it was. As videos and images circulated over social media, Uganda Airlines was compelled to explain the purpose of this trip. Despite revealing that the aircraft had been chartered, Uganda Airlines struggled to control the narrative on who exactly had paid for the aircraft. Now, this triggered speculation that there must have been a very important person on the plane. The speculation would be put to rest when a source from the Uganda Airlines itself leaked to the press. According to Uganda Radio Network, Jacob Oulanyah was brought on the old airport in an ambulance, either sleeping or unconscious, as he was boarded onto the plane on a stretcher. Also, the source further told the press that Uganda Airlines had to be paid $500,000 to fly the speaker to Seattle, something that infuriated a number of Ugandans at home and in the diaspora, given the status of the healthcare system in the country. Now, this brings me to an important point. Why charter such a humongous plane and not use a smaller aircraft like the presidential jet, which would draw little less attention? Because clearly whoever was making these decisions knew the backlash that this would bring about. And so the Ugandans in the diaspora organized peaceful protests at the hospital where the speaker had been admitted.
Who have been treated by Seattle Cancer Alliance. We want peace. We want peace in Uganda. They are sending the money to come here and get people from Cancer Alliance. We are saying no. Enough is over. Someone must go. Someone must go. Someone must go. Let's go back to Uganda.
They are killing our people in Uganda. They are killing our people in Uganda. They don't want to build hospitals. They don't want to build hospitals. Oulanyah must go back.
Because we love the sanctity of life.
Eddwaliro liiryo Oulanyah mwasuubira okubeera.
The protests were not the first of its kind. Several ministers and government officials had been protested against by these same Ugandans in the diaspora.
There will be unemployment. 2, corruption. Herself, she is very corrupt. These people are just there to lure you Europeans, then you bring money to Africa, then they themselves are the ones who are eating the money. They are very, very, very rich. She is rich. And they also have this other say whereby you rule Africans by making them poor. Because once someone is poor, that means you rule him. No wonder she comes from a dictator family with Museveni herself.
One more question and then we'll...
My question goes to Honorable Amelia Chambade. You say that we need cooperatives. You and Museveni destroyed the cooperatives we had in Uganda, and that you know. And then you said that, of course, on the issue of the jobs, she has mentioned it, but if you can give us more light on the cooperatives that you destroyed.
And Chibule himself was a very, very, very constructive and very, very...
He is still the murderer.
He was a big guy to be behind all these tortures and murders of Ugandans. So he had come here in the United States of America to seek medical aid for the wife. And Ugandans are saying enough is enough. They should stop using Ugandans' taxpayers' money.
The peaceful protesters were demanding an improvement in the healthcare system of the country. By the way, across the continent, many Africans in the diaspora are protesting against their leaders when they come to seek medical attention in Europe and America. For example, Nigerians in the UK have been protesting against most of their leaders that are coming to seek healthcare as well as doing medical tourism in the UK. So this got me thinking that can peaceful protests be moral or ethical? Can they be African? Now, look at this. These are images of women undressing in Amuru, naked with their bare chests against land grabbing in their area. Was that moral or was it ethical? Here is Pauline Opango, Lumumba's wife, protesting at the UN headquarters, requesting the body of his then murdered husband to be given to her to give it a decent burial. Think about it. On the 1st of March 2022, the Deputy Speaker Among, the Chief Justice Owini Doro, and the Minister of Health Jane Ruth Acheng, as well as the Deputy President Norbert Mao, hastily left the country for Seattle to go and visit Jacob Oulanyah. Speculation once again covered the media platforms concerning the Speaker's health, with some claiming that he was dead, but that was denied by his deputy. With this trip, it was a clear sign that the Speaker's health situation had reached a point of no return. Jacob Oulanyah would die on the 20th of March 2022, 3 days before his 57th birthday after a long battle with cancer. With his passing, suspicions about the cause of death arose. But first, the people were not sure on how to mourn the foreign speaker, and so the blame games started. The ruling party, the NRM, used the death to score political points by condemning protests in Seattle that they were unethical, un-African, evil, and wicked. In fact, they even asked for an apology from the National Unity Platform, the opposition party.
You need to apologize to the people of Uganda. Otherwise, that demonstration was uncalled for. Whatever the reason, when somebody is sick, you don't demonstrate, assuming it was your part.
One legislator went as far as saying that NUP leaders, that is the National Unity Platform leaders or members, will not cross Karuma Bridge that connects the south as well as the north if they did not issue an apology. But ask yourself, when has the ruling party ever accepted any protests? Well, the National Unity Platform said that, look, the protesters were Ugandans with legitimate concerns protesting against the general healthcare system of Uganda and not the speaker as a person. They cited an example of a CT scan machine that's needed at Lacho Hospital, where to date, 2 years later, only 100 million has been raised out of the 3.5 billion shillings that is needed to buy this particular machine. Also, if Ugandans back home are being muzzled and lack freedoms of expression on how they can show their dissatisfaction, how can they hold public officials accountable? By denying all these rights to the people, the government cannot literally tell people when to protest and when not to. These are just questions I just ask, and maybe you have the answers. If the question of protest had dominated the debate, well, the cause of death would take it to a completely different level. According to the autopsy from the government read by the Health Minister Ruth Acheng to the Parliament, she said that Oulanyah had suffered multiple organ failures due to progressive, recurrent, diffuse, large B-cell non-Hodgkin lymphoma, a type of cancer of the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is the body system that protects against illness causing invaders. It comprises of the bone marrow, the spleen, tonsils, and lymph nodes. And we shall come back to the spleen later. Now that was according to the government. However, prior to this report, following President Museveni's announcement of the speaker's demise on the 20th of March, Oulanyah's father, Nathan Okori, said his son was poisoned. Now, note here, the father did not mention any suspects, so he left the entire country thinking, who was it? This was put to rest when General Museveni came out and said that the perpetrators of these rumors must be arrested and prosecuted, adding fuel to the poison suspicions. Now, we should also understand that this wasn't the first time Museveni was engaged in Oulanyah's poisoning. In August 2021, according to The Observer, Museveni probed about Oulanyah's poisoning by ordering a specialized security team to investigate the sudden slump in Oulanyah's health few days after assuming the office. The sources said that the president was concerned Oulanyah could have been poisoned after medical reports from the UK, where he was rushed on the 22nd of June, turned out to be inconclusive. Poisoning in Uganda is serious. The poisoning of top-level government officials was first publicly brought to the limelight by General David Sejusa.
And in that army, I spent 5 years in that army. I could never eat in a hotel. I could never attend a function and take a soda because I feared poison. MPs don't eat in their canteen. No. People don't drink water even when they go to these big men's functions. Everybody carries his small water in his jacket. This is the country we are living in. Ask your ministers when they are called for state, for cabinet meeting, and you come and you tell us everything is okay. It is okay. It is okay when a member of the high command, when we are going to meet everybody, packs a chapati in the pocket. Sumbusa. It means there is a serious problem in the country.
On the burial day, Oulanya's father, defiant to the last, stood his ground and insisted that his son told him he was poisoned.
Jacob Oulanyah ama en ubil keribarakan woto yang yeo babal ko pikwanyo yatya awora dong utero ako cha atin dong goro akok gire ko ngato mio yat.
I am not mourning in vain. I want to state clearly, Jacob was poisoned. He told me, and he was operated. Doctors attempted to deal with the poison. The poison affected his health so badly. By the time he was flown out for treatment, he was not in a position to recover. He was too weak.
Then, a former minister, Godfrey Kiwanda, also said that Oulanyah confided in him that he had been poisoned.
In 2021, when he was so sick, he called me home. Then I asked him, what is the problem, Jacob? What's going on? Of course, he said, my brother, he actually said, I think I was poisoned. I said, but where? He said, no, I don't know. From who? He said, I don't know. Then, but he told me, don't tell anyone. I said, but if you are sick, why don't we share it so that you get medical attention? Of course, I couldn't keep quiet. I shared with some people. But
still, the government refused to accept any of these rumors, nor carry out another autopsy involving family members to put the case to rest. The death of Oulanyah was very painful, especially to the people of northern Uganda, because the previous year they had lost a high-ranking general, Paul Lokech, the Lion of Mogadishu, and also the former Deputy Inspector General of Police, of which most were not convinced with the government's explanation of the cause of his death. This prompted the paramount chief, wrote David Achan, who asked why his people are dying under unclear circumstances after elevation. Though there are doubts about the poisoning, there is something that there is no doubt about, and that is the spleen. So the Minister of Health said that Oulanyah's health and cancer were aggravated by the removal of his spleen. So what led to this? For that, we have to go back in time. It's 1991. Makerere University students are on a strike. The students carry out demonstrations by shouting and chanting slogans to show their dissatisfaction with Museveni's government, which had only been in power for 5 years. Why are they striking? Because the government had scrapped the students' allowances. See, Museveni was struggling to fund the university to an extent of offering the university 12,000 acres of land in Burundi to grow student food. Makerere was offering 100% tuition-free education. Above all, students expected the government to give them free housing, food, stationery, and even pocket money, as well as transport back home. The leaders of the strike are two best friends and student leaders. One is Norbert Mao, the guild president, and the other is Jacob Oulanyah, the speaker of the Students' Guild. With no tear gas at the time, the security forces straight out of the bush used live bullets, killing 2 students. The army beat up students mercilessly, crippling and injuring majority of them. Among the people that were badly beaten, and I mean badly beaten, was the Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Oulanyah, who was the guild speaker and the strike leader, ending up in Mulago Hospital. In the end, he had to undergo a surgery where his spleen was removed. A spleen is a body organ under the rib cage that is connected to the blood vessels and produces antibodies that fight against bacteria. So when the spleen is not present, these bacteria can spread into all the other body organs, since it is the part of the body's immune system organs that protect it against the invaders or the infections. And so Jacob Oulanyah spent the rest of his life in and out of hospital struggling with his health due to the spleen removal. And I would like to put emphasis here, because the incident in 1990 sums up the situation we are in today on the point of protests and the cause of death. The 1990 incident provides answers to all this. As a leader, Jacob stood up to defend his fellow students, where some paid with their lives and he lost a spleen. It is the same spleen that the Minister of Health attributed to that exacerbated Oulanyah's health situation. A spleen that he lost because of Museveni's brutality. Ugandans who protested in Seattle were victims of this same brutality and poor health care, who wished nothing like this to happen to the rest of their brethren back home. None summarized the late speaker's death so well as Maurice Komakech in his piece in the Daily Monitor. He said that in the minds of the demonstrators, they wished Oulanyah well and wished him to recover completely. The demonstrators preferred a living Oulanyah who would return home to convey the outrage of diaspora Ugandans on the state of our healthcare system. Maybe then, Oulanyah as a speaker could rethink of improving our healthcare system. Unfortunately, Oulanyah's death denied us a great champion for a competent healthcare system at home. In honor of his life, death should cement for us an opportunity for national dialogue for a better national healthcare system, so no government officials will have to be flown abroad for treatment.